And almost 3 years into Russia's full-scale invasion, Ukraine seems to be adapting to a wartime economy, with people expanding their businesses and consumers spending more despite the ongoing fighting. Although the country's economic output is still smaller than before the war, the World Bank has said it expects Ukraine's GDP to increase by around 4% next year, a sign that Ukraine may have overcome some of the challenges that devastated its economy in the initial months of the war. India's Megumi Lim has more from Kyiv.
Rolls of green fabric and spools of green thread cover the workstations of this small factory in Kyiv. Every day, new sets of army uniforms are made here to be sold in military shops across the country. Ilya Yelin, who owns the factory, moved his business from the eastern Donetsk region when the war broke out last year. He had plans to produce clothes for coal miners there, but everything came to a halt when Russia's full-scale invasion began.
It was quite challenging because we had no market and no suppliers. Everything was left in the Donetsk region. We started from the very beginning, seeking new trends as the specialized clothing we produced back there was no longer relevant here.
Now he produces 200 uniforms a month, sold by women who were internally displaced and have found a new life in Kyiv. Ukraine's economy shrank by 1/3 at the start of the war, but as people fled to safer parts of the country, spending picked up and businesses were bolstered by a steady flow of foreign financial aid. The World Bank predicts that Ukraine's economy will grow by an estimated 4% next year. This growth does stem from a low base after the initial months of devastation, but it's a sign that Ukraine has been able to adapt to various wartime challenges. Irina Yelisova's kitchen furnishing business is one of many propped up by government grants funded by foreign aid. She lost her job when parts of the Kyiv region came under Russian occupation. But after its liberation, she was eager to start again.
The primary motivation to work, the eagerness to work, it wasn't driven by making money. It was more about the aspiration to assist people who had lost their homes. Initially, we operated at a very low profit margin because we aimed to alleviate the urgent needs of those who had lost their homes and furniture.
Within the first 3 months of work, she completed 60 projects, including rebuilding a kitchen in Irpin that was destroyed by a Russian rocket. Analysts say the economy remains highly dependent on help from Ukraine's international partners.
All Ukrainian revenues, like tax revenues, normal revenues of the country, are spent on the army, on the military, on salaries to servicemen, on fuel, on feeding soldiers, and everything else is in fact funded by our international partners. Partial as grants, partial as loans.
Enormous challenges still lie ahead for Ukraine. These include the costly rebuilding of the country's devastated cities and a government deficit that will continue to balloon as the war drags on. But Ilya remains positive his business will continue to grow. His hope is that someday the fabrics on his factory's workstations won't just be the colors worn by soldiers on the battlefield. Megumi Lim in Kyiv, reporting for DD India.